What's on, where, and when. It's the Talk of Nelson. NBS Talk Nelson.
When I think about banking for life, I'm thinking about Shona and I'm thinking about our boys, and I'm thinking about our grandchildren and the support that they're providing them at their stage in their lives. And the NBS certainly is serious about that.
The Mako Rugby Roundup.
Welcome back to another episode of the Mako Rugby Roundup, coming to you from the Turf Hotel. Thanks to Stan and the team, and we must make mention, I think it's this Friday, the Rock 2000 Nelson's Countdown Party, biggest night of the year for the Turf Hotel. So good luck with that. There'll be heaps of other things on, so make sure you check out their Facebook page. The colourful Les Edwards with me, mate.
Got
the Guam rugby shirt on.
A bit of red and yellow, which may or may not be relevant to today's show.
Yeah, that's right. And also a very special guest, third time actually. He's come back to us, plays a huge part in keeping the Mako environment humming as the team manager, high performance manager as well, Huw, and also been heavily involved Crusaders under-20s and also the New Zealand under-20s as well with the World Cup. So nice to have you back, Huw Beynon.
Thanks. Absolute pleasure to be here. The Guam jersey, Les? Remember I bumped into someone from Guam rugby?
You did, Peter Bagetta.
That shows you. Anywhere you go in the world. I was in Verona with the New Zealand under-20s, and I wasn't even there with them yet. It was the recce earlier in the year, and chatting to an American guy, and said, "Oh, where are you from?" I think he saw my Tasman tattoo.
Oh, yes, right.
And said, he goes, "Oh, do you know Les Edwards?" In a restaurant in Verona, the other side of the world. So we sent you a picture, didn't we? A slightly boozy one, I think, actually. But
it was lovely to see you both, mate.
Yeah.
World famous, obviously. Huw, let's get straight into the under-20s, because a lot of us watched that tournament, and must have been a massive effort to do all the organisation. So tell us about that experience and being part of the under-20s World Cup.
It kind of came out of nowhere end of last year because Stu Hunter was my predecessor in that role, as he was in the Tasman role. So we know Stewie very well, and he called me and gave me a heads up he wasn't going to be able to do the New Zealand under-20s this year, put my hand up for it. Within a week, I was told we're on the way. So we went to Port Elizabeth at the start of the year for the Rugby Championship, and then to Verona for the World Cup. Unbelievable experience. Really cool. Amazing. Awesome to do it with a few Mako men as well. Luca Roden, the analyst from Tasman, he's there. Richie Marsden, long-time Mako physio and long-time under-20s physio, so that was really cool. And a smattering of Mako players, young Tasman players as well. Eli Odenryan, Lavoni Kunawawe, Cooper Roberts, Sione Muffy joined us as an injury replacement as well. So that was really cool to have that Tasman vibe out there as well. But overall, it's just, who's going to complain going to South Africa, going to Italy?
I know.
Apart from my wife. It was awesome. Like, long time away, especially that World Cup, 5 weeks away from home. Is a long time on the road with 31 19-year-olds, trying to keep them in check, but really cool, really rewarding, especially as a lot of those guys had never left New Zealand or even the particular island that they live on in New Zealand, so to
you had to give them passports.
A lot of them had to get passports for the first time, so to be a part of that part of their life and that awesome experience for them and looking after them, taking them to Venice for the day and just seeing their faces, awesome, really cool. And we did well, get all the way to the big dance and go down to a deserving South African team on the day was obviously it sucked at the time to lose the final, but you look back and you're pretty proud of the whole thing. Yeah.
Geez, the heat, was that an issue over there? The commentators were talking about just how hot it was.
So we made the decision to go a week early because our three pool opponents were all European, so they weren't going to have any jet lag to deal with. So we'll get over a week early and do our camp that would normally happen in New Zealand. We'll do it over in Italy. And luckily we did, but we got there and it was 38 degrees for the first 16 days. Sometimes it tipped over to 40 so everything had to change, training and everything like that. But you just step outside and you sweat.
Yeah.
So it was hot.
Is it a humid heat or quite a dry heat?
Dry heat, quite a dry heat. So not too bad. You get in the shade and you're not too bad. But we made an early call that we're embracing it, we're enjoying it. How awesome is this? Better than rain, better than snow, Yeah, it's hot, but how cool is this?
Yeah.
And the boys are great because, you imagine being a 115 kg prop trying to run around in that nightmare, but no complaints. The boys loved it. Yeah, it was awesome.
The turf quite hard, was it? Or was the grass sort of did that counter that a bit?
We're lucky enough to have pretty cool training facilities, so
Right.
they were watering them and everything like that. So it wasn't too bad. There's a couple of clubs we'd go and visit and run around, play a bit of touch with some of the youngsters, all that kind of community engagement. There were some pretty literally dusty tracks out there doing that, but otherwise, no, it was no complaints. It was great. Yeah.
So, Huw, how did our boys stand up to the tournament? And out of the, including those, who's the one player in that under-20s that's really going to make it on the big stage?
Great question. Our boys were fantastic. I mean, Eli had a relatively tough role because the captain was the other hooker.
Right.
So he goes in already knowing I'm not number one in my position, but every time he came on, he played fantastically, including playing on the side of the scrum every now and then. That we'll talk a little bit later, by the way, when we get to the Tasman team for this week. And knowing that he's behind the captain didn't affect him at all. It was just awesome attitude. And same, I'd say, to Moa Lechu, who was the captain, who's down with Canterbury. Awesome attitude to when Eli did start a couple of games or when he had to come off earlier than normally a captain would, because we had this absolute gun on the bench, and Eli Odenryan, who needed time and changed the game every time he came on. Maloney over in South Africa scored 2 tries a game, so not much more you can ask for from a winger. Over in Italy, he was nursing a bit of a hamstring injury that he picked up over with the Crusaders, but still played great and played almost every minute of every game. But I'd say out of our Tasman guys, the real star was Cooper Roberts, and we've seen that transfer into this Tasman Mako season as well. He was phenomenal, and I've known Cooch for a few years now, and how he's matured on and off the field has been really awesome to see. And he played great. Started all our games apart from one where a lot of the frontliners, as you were getting a rest, so he had that week off against Georgia, but otherwise played every minute of every game and was just phenomenal.
And he plays in the 13 jersey, right? Which is a really tough position in rugby. And it's transferring how well he plays now into the Mako season.
You just look at how well he played at the weekend against Waikato, phenomenal, and defensively well above his years in how he reads the game and how he plays. So that was awesome. And all of us had a great time off the field. There's a real close bond between all of us, and Luca and Richie as well, the management and the Mako players on tour. That was great. In terms of who else, I mean, you're out there with the 30 best under-20s players in the country, so that was awesome. It was cool to change stories around, these guys are from, because we'd all done the Super Rugby under-20 campaign earlier that year, so I was with the Crusaders, and obviously we'd won that in the extra time last-minute try against the Chiefs, so there was a bit of banter there, but it was also provincial chat, and how do you guys do things there, and this is how we do it in Tasman and all that. We were annoying everyone by fins up in every photo,
that's right.
all that kind of stuff. So it was the camaraderie in it all was great. But there was a player, young Finn McLeod, the number 8, we played 6 then, first year out of school, Grizz Wiley's grandson, had never played 80 minutes ever, because 70 minutes at school,
I guess.
And then he was being pulled off in the Crusaders under-20s campaign at around the 70-minute mark, and then not lucky to make the team, but there was a lot of good back rows to choose from. Made the team, which was a surprise to Finn, and then played a starring role. And I think we can say we offered him a contract, Tasman. We tried to get him up here. Phenomenal young man, phenomenal player. Canterbury very smartly matched it immediately, and he's staying at home. We said to him the whole time, mate, that if you're going to stay down there, no dramas at all. Like, he was head boy at Christchurch Boys. I said, his grandfather was Grizz Wiley, right? He was a Mr. Canterbury, so we had no qualms with him doing that. But we thought, if they're not going to offer you anything, come on up and play some footy for us, because I think you'll love it. But he's a great young man. And I keep in touch with all of them. The Canterbury came up and played the under-19s to Hunanui relatively recently. A lot of the under-20s boys are in there, so go catch up. And it's been one of my favourite things of the whole NPC season. Every team we play, 1 or 2 or 3 of those New Zealand under-20s boys are in it. So the weekend, got to catch up with Ollie Mathis and Dylan Etty, and everywhere we go, there's someone to catch up with, which for me in rugby is new, because I've only been with Tasman. So unless they're a former Tasman player, which, we don't often see people move from Tasman to another provincial union, it's been great to have that new network to catch up with at the end of every game.
So, you have been involved in administration or management in basketball, and then we've talked before about that transition between basketball and rugby, but now you've gone from the Mako to a New Zealand representative. So was there anything that you learned from that experience that you were able to bring back into Tasman Mako, or is the structure fairly much the same?
I think for me, it was a recognition, and we know that everyone comes from different backgrounds and different walks of life. That's more so when you expand it to a national stage, right? So everyone who's come through Tasman, people are coming from different family situations or different financial situations or whatever. But largely, if you've grown up in the region, you're on a relatively similar footing. Whether you went to Marlborough Boys or Nelson College or whatever, you're on a relatively similar footing. When you expand that to a New Zealand, whole way it's different. You've got guys who might be coming from King's College, or one of the top private schools, and their dad might be a high flying CEO, and then we had two guys with kids in our under 19 team.
Right.
Michael Fale, who's was one of my favourite young men. He was a year young, so he'll be can play under 20s next year. He's got a 2-year-old, so he's coming out of the Waikato. He's in the chief system, and just the nicest, most humblest, and funniest young man. He was our real energy bringer off the field and played great when he came off the bench too. So for him to have a 2-year-old, and he's 18 years old, that kind of stuff. So you're managing everyone differently. Everyone's got different expectations, coming with different ways to look at things. And I found that a challenge, but a really fun one, and really cool. And this helped me come home, and then you realise, actually, he's brought up a bit differently to that guy. So we need to make sure he understands things a little bit differently to that guy. We treat them just a little bit different to make sure it works out for everyone. Yeah.
Interesting. So well into the NPC now. We're on the home stretch pretty much. So how have you found this year's campaign with the Mako?
Yeah, business time coming up, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good. It's been personally a bit of a challenge because I got home from Italy, had one night at home with the kids, and then was driving a minivan to Christchurch for our preseason game the next day. So it took me probably a couple of weeks just to get myself back into it, and to get that energy back after with the jet lag and everything. And obviously we've hit some other hurdles. Shane's passing, right at slap bang in the middle of the season, was something we all had to get our heads around. Give ourselves time personally, because we all knew and love Shane, as well as trying to professionally make sure we don't let it affect us too much, especially in my role, keeping an eye on everyone as well. And now in the last few weeks, we've hit a bit of a blip, right? There's no hiding from it, a bit of a results blip anyway.
But before that blip, you had the All Black selectors getting involved with the makeup of your team.
Yeah, that's right.
So there's always that challenge as well. And then one over two,
Your captain's gone.
Captain's gone, and then in one afternoon we lose both Jim Tavanawa and which led to Lester going and Ethan Blackadder. So we had injuries, but I mean that's every footy campaign. The Shane one isn't. So we've had this little blip in the last few weeks, and you call it a blip, but I mean one was an extra time loss, one was the last second try. So performances was there, especially against Canterbury. But I will say this: I'd rather have that blip in rounds 5, 6, and 7 than have it in rounds 10 to quarterfinal, which we had last year for whatever reason with the Shield and everything. So hopefully we now move past that, because rarely does a team go the whole entire year unbeaten or not go through a blip in any sport. So now we hopefully move past that and we push into the business time with a couple of wins and then the playoffs.
So did you get through Waikato relatively unscathed?
Yes, Waikato relatively unscathed. Fletcher Anderson, probably just a bit of wear and tear, so unavailable this
week. He's done a lot of work.
He's had a lot of work, a lot of load. It was awesome to be able to rest Willie Havili for a chunk of that game and give Cooper Grant an opportunity, which I thought he played really, really well at. So yeah, no massive ones, no.
That's good this time of the year.
Yeah.
So any particular, I mean, you've talked about some of those challenges that you've had to face this year, but also some of the positives, some of the players you mentioned in the under 20s, one or two, but there's, a couple of players have come through that campaign and I think are starting to stand out in the Mako a bit too as well. But any players from your perspective in the Mako that you think are coming through and standing out from your perspective?
First of all, it's been great for me to have my first full season with Dave Havili, because he's always kind of been in and out, being put either always gone with the All Blacks as he was in 23, or last year could have been one of those players that's kind of yo-yoing in and out of the All Blacks, which is tough for them as it is for us. So to have a full season of Dave and just watch the effect he has on everything is really cool to see, and you finally understand the aura around him and why everyone respects him as they do. So that's been really cool for me. Otherwise, the rise of Fletcher Anderson has been awesome to see. He managed to keep injury free so far, touch wood. So He's just been playing phenomenally. Tasman Mako, who no
Yes.
one had heard of until
favourite.
this season. You know,
he certainly stitched up the line outs and scores tries on the back of it. So,
well, I can
good
give you
man.
a fun stat attack. At the weekend, he became the first Mako player ever to score in 5 consecutive games.
Oh, is that right? Wow.
Pretty phenomenal. So we came into the season knowing Sam Molly was going to be away with Tonga. He comes back next week, so available for the counties game. So Tamasi was brought in as a stopgap, you know, and because Eli was coming off the back of a 20s campaign, and we're also fully aware you're not going to put a 19-year-old out there for 10 straight weeks in the front row. It's going to be no good for him. But how has Tamasi been great? And I know not just us, but everyone clamoring for his signature for next year. So we've got a fight on our hands there. But yeah, so and as already mentioned, Cooper Roberts has been awesome, and to command that 13 jersey when there's players like Levi and Lester and Dave around, and for him to still be first choice, that's phenomenal.
I mean, Eli's been playing well as well, hasn't he? I mean, there's in the set piece maybe a couple of times, some improvements there, but an open play, man, what a talent!
How fast is he?
Yeah,
you know, you just see when he has to make a cover tackle, just how fast he can move. And he's so much fun to have around the environment.
He's kind of like a Dane Coles, isn't he? He's like a bit of an enigma. You don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
But got that burst of speed and,
he does.
and that
Yeah.
energy. Yeah, he's terrific in open play and, you know, and behind the maul. Just a little bit of line out work, and I'm sure he knows that. So, yeah, there's a lot to like about Eli's future.
Yeah.
And I think Kyron has just come on leaps and bounds from last year as well. We forget how young these guys are. Macca Springer's 22.
Yeah.
Kyron's 22. Eli's 19, maybe just turned 20 this year. So to forget just how Fletcher Anderson 22, how this young group we have at the Tasman building, it's pretty exciting.
Well, that's something that we talked about earlier. That I can't remember what game it was, but Fletcher Anderson captained that team. And we're saying, geez, this is a bit of an eye on the future here. You know, a lot of the team makeup, we had some pretty significant injuries. I think they rested David Havili as well. And Fletcher captained. We said, gee, are we looking at a side that hopefully will be together the next 2 or 3 seasons?
Yeah, and you think of Johnny Lee as well, who's been injured.
Yes.
So since that Northland game, another great young talent coming through. So yeah, in abundance.
And they're all such good young men.
Yeah.
Everyone we've interviewed, the chat has been great, and they're humble, and they want to succeed.
Yeah.
And they like Tasman. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, Les and Johnny are getting together with board games now. So they
He's part of that board game.
Well, you are too.
Part of the Mako board game.
Les is trying to get in.
Come on in, Les. It's great fun.
Basketball. So where is that sitting at the moment amongst all this? Do you still keep a foot in where you can, or?
Yeah, less so. Obviously,
Yes.
This time last year, I was still very much involved with the Nelson College team. They're off to nationals this week, so good luck to them. They've got a real chance of winning that, actually. It's had to take a back seat for me since I've come into that full-time role with Tasman. Still got my commentary, you know, for when I was around, when I wasn't away with the under-20s commentating the Giants games I was here for. So I always keep my hat in that ring if Sky keep letting me, which they've done so far, and the same with the Tall Blacks. So still love it, still a fan, but you know you can't have everything.
Yeah, and so is Phil involved in that college team? Is he Phil Jones?
No, he was. No. He's Waimea. So he was.
He's Waimea, right?
Because his son Hayden's now, who I got a photo from the other day with Shaquille O'Neal.
Oh,
he's off on his big Wisconsin University for his scholarship, which is amazing. So Phil's kind of stepped away from school basketball now, and that Sam Dempster coaches the Nelson College team. Yeah,
right.
Another Giants, great. Yeah.
And same with the Giants a little bit too. Quite a young side, bit of a rebuild period at the moment.
Yeah,
A
lot of youngsters coming out of Nelson. There's, like I said, that great Nelson College team they have now will be bleeding into the Giants in the next few years. It's a little bit different to rugby in that they go away first, right? So they'll go to America first and go to college, which is awesome. Like, why would you take that experience away from them if they're good enough to go get a free education in a place like that? And then they start to filter back in. Hopefully, if we've done our job while they're young, they want to come home if they don't go on to higher honours elsewhere in their sort of mid-20s. So
it was saw an interesting video recently, which was a throwback. Must have been.
I saw that.
Was it the 90s? Was it Peter Williams travelled to Nelson and interviewed the Giants?
1992.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Chris Simpson and Nenad and all that crew. Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's and great atmosphere back in those days too.
And the meter maid lady who would feed the coins
Yes.
into the car parks, but wouldn't give the Giants any special favors.
No.
But she knew them all for a chat.
Yeah, and she was involved in sport for years and years, and bowls.
Who was she?
By now, I've gone blank. The people are going to kill me because she was just such a stalwart of Nelson sport for a long, long time,
and loved the Giants.
Yeah, and I think it was bowls and maybe netball as well. But she was just such a fantastic supporter of most sports in Nelson. So immediate priorities, obviously, the Mako season for you. So tell us about what's ahead and then next steps for you. Have you got any plans over the off season and beyond?
So when this podcast is released, I think it will be in Invercargill, getting ready to take on the Stags.
A must win, Huw?
Certainly is a must win. And I think for them, their chances of the 8 are relatively unlikely, not impossible, but potentially their final home game, and how proud and they are down there, and they had a great season winning the Shield and all that stuff that comes with it. So never an easy beat down in Invercargill. A little special one for us as well, with Steve Mitchell, our CEO, going back to visit.
Oh yes,
where he was CEO down there.
So he'll be going back down, will he? Yeah.
Jay Renton in his 50th NPC game, 44 of those were for Southland. So pretty cool for him. Yeah, so it should be a fun trip. I've been to Invercargill a lot of times with basketball. I've never been to Rugby Park, so really excited to tick that one off. And then we're back home in Paradise here at Trafalgar Park, take on counties next week, and hopefully we can nut off 2 wins and then find that big momentum to head into the finals.
Well, both those teams are below the Mako on the ladder, so the key there is not to be complacent.
Yep.
And the top 2 inches preparation is going to be absolutely crucial.
Certainly is, yeah.
Yeah, and then what's beyond that? So the season finishes. So is there more talk about New Zealand under-20s? And
for me, there isn't. So I'm off actually to Super Rugby to take on the role of the manager's role at the Chiefs, the mighty Chiefs. So following.
So is that why, Les? Because that's almost not quite the same colour.
Well, the red and the gold sort of matches. Yeah, I did get a little inkling when he said he'd come on the show that this was in the pipeline. So it's a big announcement, actually. Yeah. You heard it here first.
Yeah. Following the footsteps of a great Tasman man in Marty Verco. He was a long-time Tasman Mako manager, and he helped me heaps during the whole process. Everyone's been awesome. Mixed emotions for me. I absolutely love it with both Tasman, but also living in Nelson. The Giants mean a lot to me, as we've discussed. Our 3rd child, little Rosie, she was born here in Nelson. We've been here just over 5 years, and we've loved it here, and really had no plans to go. It wasn't really just a case of try and get to Super Rugby at any opportunity I could. It was away with the under-20s, working with some guys who are on their way to the Chiefs or have been there, and just spoke so highly of the culture. Reached out to Alex Nankivell to ask him, would I fit in there? Would I enjoy it there? And he came back with an emphatic, yeah. It's all about people. It's all about culture, which is what I'm all about too, and having fun as well. So once he sort of said that, I said, all right, we'll give it a crack. And I still thought, give it a crack, and think, bit of a long shot.
Give the interview a crack, right?
Yeah. Give the process a crack. Sorry. Yeah. Give just applying. I thought that's a bit of a long shot, and I went through the process. And the more I did, the more I felt, it'd be really cool to get there. And John O'Gibbs, who's the new head coach up at the Chiefs, he actually hired me for the New Zealand 20 role.
You've got that relationship.
But then he left before he went to the Chiefs, before we did any work together. He hired me, and then he moved on. So we did have that kind of relationship, but really cool to actually finally work with him after multiple Zoom interviews and both processes to actually meet the big man in person. I haven't told him yet that he broke my heart when I was 17 years old, because I was a big Ospreys fan, as we've discussed before. I grew up over in the UK, big Ospreys fan. My dad's Welsh, and Johnny Gibbs signed for the Ospreys. I got so excited, and then he reneged on the deal 2 weeks later.
Did he?
So that'll probably save that for a couple of beers in my early days. But otherwise, I'm really excited, and I'm going to miss Tasman so much. My son, who's a massive Mako fan and Giants fan, he's already been mapping out all the away games we can go to up in the North Line. Oh, we can go, Daddy, we can drive to counties and play. Oh, can we drive to Manawatu? It's only 4 hours, but all that stuff. So he's mapping all of that out, which is really cool. But it probably won't hit home until June next year, I think. Les, you reckon when everything really starts to ramp up for Mako season, and I realise I'm not going to be there.
So that
you've got the tattoo. Once a Mako, always a Mako. So I can absolutely. You'll get to games.
100%. Oh,
And so reading between the lines, that's a full-time gig. So
it is full-time.
so it all
full
goes out the
family
window
mission.
and full focus on the super franchise.
Yeah, full focus on the Chiefs. So awesome opportunity for me. Like, that's not lost on me. There's only 5 of those jobs in New Zealand Rugby as managers in Super Rugby. So if I want to get to where I want to get to and be awesome to work for the All Blacks one day, then this is the step you kind of have to take.
And so does under 20s, that's not possible, or
no, it's too much of a plan.
too much? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Wow.
The full time with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So the season ends and he starts planning. It's like painting the Harbour Bridge, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah.
End and you have to start.
Well, that's been my whole year, really. Crusaders 20s for the first 2 months, and straight into New Zealand 20s, straight into the Mako season, and then it'll be straight into planning for the Chiefs. I think the players assemble November the 17th for preseason before Christmas, and then we have a week off over Christmas, then we're into it. But some really cool things to look forward to. Round 5, Moana Pacifica away in Tonga. That's going to be really cool place to go and play football. And also just to bounce into all the Mako players around the place.
Yeah,
2 games against the Crusaders, which I know I'll be copping multiple sprays from Antonio Chalfoun and Dave and the 15 plus Mako players we have who play for the Crusaders. Just me and Kyron running and flying the flag for the Chiefs. So awesome to take young Kyron up there with me as well. So no, I'm really excited, but it is mixed emotions. Yeah.
Yeah.
So also there's some work to be done by you. There's team awards coming up, which you need to organise and
MC and all sorts.
And that's an opportunity for us to learn who the coaches consider to be their standout talents for the year. And definitely the goal has to be playoffs. And so, a lot of work still to be done.
Oh, yeah.
And then interestingly, I guess you're going to have a big role to play in who will be the next Tasman Mako manager.
Yeah, certainly will be helping as much as I can, Steve and the crew, in shaping what the high performance department looks like next year. We've got big plans for that gap in between the academy and the Mako. We've had those sort of on the back burner this year that we're really starting to ramp up now, about making sure there is a decent pathway for when you come out of the academy, if you're the Crusaders Academy up here, or to get to that 2021 age and you're not yet in the Mako. And that could be for any reason. It could be because there's 3 All Blacks in your position. It could just be because of that. Great examples are Mason Lund, right? What is in place for him, who might be behind Finlay Christie and Noah Hotham, but needs to be ready at any moment to make sure, apart from just club rugby, what can we put around him? So we're really looking into making a legitimate high performance program that runs alongside the academy, with games against other unions, with maybe a trip over to Japan or something, much like you guys went to America, I think, a few years ago, Les. Similar thing to, 1, keep players in the region and keep them ready for the next level, but 2, also entice other players. Go, if I go off and play club footy in Nelson or Marlborough, go play in the Tasman Trophy, I can use this Mako pathway program to make myself better and get myself onto higher honours too. So that's the plan, and we've got a great guy in place in Tom Marshall, who's been one of the superstars of this year for us, and bringing him in as a full-time as an employee with his Shark School work and with his assistant coach work to help run that. So that's a real high priority for me before I do head up north on the Inter-Islander.
Good stuff. Okay, we've got some quick-fire questions, and I suppose focused on the Mako, but who's the most helpful person behind the scenes?
Mono Molly.
Straight away.
Absolutely, Mono Molly, assistant to the manager, I call him. Great human being, and I've missed him all season because he's been injured for a large chunk until the last couple of weeks. He hasn't been on any away trips yet, so this Invercargill one will be his first. So the most helpful young man, always smiling, great attitude to rugby.
Lovely human.
Amazing human being, packs the bags. So, I'll turn my back to have a chat with the coach or the captain, and after the sheds, I turn around and he's there packing all the dirty kit away and everything. And you know what? At the on a New Zealand under-20s camp, we're at the airport in Wellington, and Moana Pacifica are walking through. They just finished their season, lost to the Hurricanes, right? And they're walking through. And say good day to everyone, Kyron, Sione, Willie, etc. I was like, where's Monu? I was like, I know where Mono is. So all the other players are walking off to go sit down and have a coffee, or it might have been a beer because their season had finished. And I was like, I know where Mono is. I walked around to there he is, putting all the bags on the luggage carousel, and I saw Pete, the manager, and was like, is he your best friend too? And he goes, I couldn't do it without him. You know, honestly, he is
What a good man.
the best. If there was a manager's award, every year it would go to Moni Molly.
Yeah.
What a great answer to a great question.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I was going to say who's the hardest person to organise, but I thought I might keep it generic. What's the hardest thing to organise as a team manager?
There are some, guys who just have brain fates, more than others. Maloni Kunawave, who I spent a lot of time with this year in Crusaders, New Zealand under 20 and Tasman. He's one of those, but you love him for it. It's part of who he is. And it's never intentional, it's just wired differently. The hardest thing to organize. Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot, but I think one of my strengths anyway is just as soon as you acknowledge that everyone's different, and if you organize something that's going to make perfect sense to Antonio Chalfoun, but it might not make perfect sense to Eli Odenrhein because one's 19 and hasn't really been around a professional environment, and one has been, or Dave Harvey has been around every professional environment. So you just roll with the punches.
Got your passport?
Well, that happened a lot. Maloney forgot his passport.
Oh, is that right?
At least once on our New Zealand under 20 trip, and he was the only Fijian passport, so it's the one that stuck out the most. The sea of black, the one light blue one.
Where is it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, where is it, Maloney? I think he got fined a few times for not having it when he should have had it. But all that stuff is part of the fun. I always say you can only be 90% prepared. If you're 100% prepared, you're in trouble because the other 10% for when shit goes wrong. You got to roll with the punches. Yeah.
We've had actually a variety of answers to this one, but the biggest hard case in the squad.
Ethan Blackadder would be up there for me.
Yeah, he was mentioned.
Yeah. Biggest hard case. Yeah. Just the way he plays is how he lives his life as well. Just full noise, 110%. I think him and Hunter Lepine took Aaron Dundon out hunting last Wednesday night or something. And in the middle of the night, they're walking around some bush somewhere out towards Mott or past Mott, and all that kind of stuff. And whenever Ethan Blackhead and Harry Inch are anywhere near each other, within seconds they're talking about hunting and this and that, and that's not a world I'm familiar with. So I always find that quite a hard case. Yeah.
And I think I know the answer to this question, but the moment of the season so far.
For me, and this is one of the moments of my time with Tasman, it was against Otago in that last seconds of those games. Obviously, Shane had passed away just a few days before. We get that penalty easily in Willie Havili's zone, and I look out there and it's just Willie and Dave, two brothers, two great Tasman people having a yarn. And then they get to the corner, and we're there holding the tee up, thinking, and I'm there planning extra time. I'm on the phone, 5-minute break. Then there's a coin toss, and what do you want me to tell Dave to shoot? All that stuff with the coaches. And he gets to the corner, and then a kick for the corner, he puts it, nailed it in the corner, and then obviously we score the try. And I spoke to Dave. It was Ethan's 50th as well, right? That game.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're at the Walker that night, and I said, how was it? What were you guys talking about? And he goes, well, I went up to him and said, can you kick it? And Willie's, they're so different as brothers, right? Dave's a very serious, lovely man, but very serious man. And Willie's not. Willie is just always joking, or nothing phases him. The weekend he missed a couple of kicks, could have won the game. Yeah. You might think, we've got to wrap ourselves around that guy. Hope he's okay. Willie comes up and goes, sorry, lads. Next one. And that's how it needs to be. And he goes, I see, can you kick it? And Willie goes, yeah, but I could also put it in the corner. And it wasn't an easy kick to the corner, right?
No.
He was in the middle of the field.
47 metres away, mate.
Yeah. And he goes, yeah, kick it, but I could also put it in the corner and we score a try and win the game.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what and Dave's just like, you know what? F it. Do that. And they did it. And that moment of just two brothers from Motueka who went through Nelson College, just sitting there making that decision I loved it. It
was a wonderful result for a tough week, finish a tough week.
And it was almost like from a higher power in a way, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
It was all right. Well, look, stick around, Huw, because we're going to go through the NPC. We're going to go through the results, and then we've got to do our picks. And a big weekend coming up in the All Black camp too, and a lot to talk about. So first of all, let's just talk about the Friday night game, and it was Taranaki versus Hawke's Bay. That was 38-24, and bit of a bounce back from Taranaki.
Yes, it was. And unfortunately, our guest last week, Tony Nashu, we backed Hawke's Bay because that's where he's from. So
we did. Yeah.
Taranaki were great. And it was a bounce back win for them. They needed that. Yeah. So now I think they are in the four.
Yeah.
Pretty close. Top four.
What wasn't 20 a great story? You know, the sevens and history, going to Wanderers, being plucked out, going to Wanderers, making through onto the seven circuit and then getting picked out. And one of the world's best sevens players now. And, going into like an IPL style competition in India. I just thought that was an incredible story.
And when they, those sevens boys got told that we need you to all go play NPC, this season.
Yes.
Called us straight away. Like you say, he lives in Bay of Plenty. He's from Hawke's Bay. Anyone would have taken him, but his first phone call was to Gray and say, "Can I come and play?" Which is awesome.
He loved his time in Wanderers, and those 4 years were foundations for him.
Now, watch out for Counties Monaco, 49-28 over Auckland, especially with what Auckland had done recently. And then Wellington, where did this come from? 75-19 over Southland. I suppose that's something to watch out for because Southland are going to be hurting, aren't they?
They had a couple of guys stood down, right? For
yes, the two Pacific Islanders, the 12 and the 8.
Two of their most impactful players.
Yeah,
breaching team protocol. There'll be a wounded stag this weekend for sure. But that's
and where that came.
Fired.
Wellington. I mean, they've got all the power in there. They've got a great. It's a bit like Auckland. You're saying when's it going to happen? And the last couple of weeks it had. Well, Wellington's started to hit their straps now, but Auckland back to square one. Canterbury. 36, Otago 38. What a second half by Otago.
Yeah.
Wasn't that incredible?
It was incredible, and delighted for Otago. First win against Canterbury in decades, and they haven't had the Shield for a while, so rather pleased for them.
Oh, awesome.
Because let's put it this way, Canterbury should have lost the Shield the week before, so it's finally moved on.
And the Southern Man song started coming out, We'll come back to the Tasman game, but Northland 22 over North Harbour 21, so very close there. And then Bay of Plenty starting to hit their straps again late in the season, 55 over Manawatu 19. So, it's just all over the place, isn't it? And it's hard to tell what's going to happen over the next few weeks. The Tasman game, I guess a little bit of disappointment. This might have been tagged, although you can never right off a Waikato side. And if you look at the way that they played and the players that they've got, again, they would be disappointed with their season so far because you would have thought they would hit their straps. And they showed signs of that in this game, didn't they, how good they are. 29-24. So what was the feeling in the camp after that game?
Oh, disappointing. Obviously, I mean, we're, like we said before, we're a kick away from winning it, but did we really deserve to win it? I don't know. We can play. The boys know we can play much better than we did, and almost a little bit fortunate to be there right at the end and to force it. I think Waikato would have felt pretty hard done by if they had lost that game. Not dissimilar to when we went up there last year and Willie's wobbly knuckleball kick went over. But like you say, they're a good team. They had a bit of Shield hangover, I think, early in the year when they got sort of punched on the nose by Southland, who put on one of the great performances to take it off them. And then they've had a bit of a hangover after that, and they had a nice smattering of All Blacks dropped back in for last weekend that made a difference.
Yes.
There's no easy games. There really are no easy games this year. You look at Manawatu, who copped a big loss, but they've had 4 wins or 3 wins and some really good ones out there too. I actually sneakily picked Otago. We had a little internal picking competition between a few of us there. I picked Otago, so I was quite happy to see that come through. So it was definitely a disappointing one at the weekend, but like I say, I'm glad the blip has happened now than if it happened in a couple of weeks' time.
Well, and good comeback in the second half. That's heartening, and really, don't want to put all the heat onto Willie, but usually his strike rate is so good, isn't it? So you've got to move on from that. But if he'd got either one of those, it would have been a win to the Mako. So don't want to put that onto one guy because, the rest of the game you put in that position to have to try and get that result. But it just goes to show how close it was. And perhaps if you weren't playing your best, you just about, to get the win.
That's exactly what Dave said in the sheds afterwards, we didn't play great, but we're just a kick away from winning the game.
Yes, that's right.
And it's not the first time. We didn't play great against Otago, but we came away with the win.
Yes.
And then that, obviously the Canterbury game was just two Titans going at each other with a last second try, so that could have gone either way as well. So, it was... yeah, it's one of those ones. I don't think we can get too disheartened about the last 3 weeks at all.
I like the honesty of your answer, Hugh. I just don't think we look like the best team on the park on Saturday. So yeah, it was one of those games where, man, you're thinking, can we even get close to this? And then all of a sudden it's tied up at full time. And you've got to say that was a remarkably good effort to do that. The conversion hits the post.
Yeah, that's right. I know.
Then there's the call on which way to run win the coin toss, right? But there's an opportunity to win the game again with a fairly adjacent penalty kick. Okay, it doesn't go over, but yeah, so that'll be disappointing for the fans. But I think that it was extremely good character shown by the players to actually get back from a tough situation to where they could have won.
And Waikato played the conditions really well. First half, they pinned us back in our half. Xavier Rowe kicked beautifully. Those little front flipping boxies of his into the corner, pinning us back the whole time, even in the second half. So we had a long way to go the whole time. And
tell me about the wind, Hugh. It looked like, and I didn't go to Lansdowne, but it looked like the wind died down considerably.
Yeah, it did.
It about 20 minutes into the game. And died down in the second half. Is that correct?
First half, it was, you could tell from our attempted clearances, right, pinning us right back. So we got to half time thinking, okay, sweet, we're 12 down here. We've got we just do what they did, basically punked it down there, and then the wind died down. So it was the punts down there became harder to do. And like I say, young Xavier Rowe was just pinning it back into the corner. So they played it well.
Yeah, I only watched parts of it, but I just thought that Waikato, they've got the players, haven't they? They've got some exciting talent in there, and
they certainly do.
And so that they just put it together, But I still think that, like you say, if you're not playing every game to the best of your ability and there's room for improvement, it's at some point it's got to click. And I've said this about Wellington and Auckland, but I'm hoping that we'll start getting that. We'll be a bit like the Panthers in the NRL. It hasn't gone right all season, but all of a sudden it all starts coming together,
Yeah, and a couple of highlights, if I may. Tasman Mako again. Scoring 2 tries, and as you said, his 5th consecutive game with a meat pie, so he'd be happy. And Cooper Roberts' try was delightful. Yes, it really was. And I know he was playing under a bit of duress. His grandfather passed away that week, so really strong of him to actually play and then to be able to throw a fin up for his granddad. Awesome.
Well, I said to him 2 days before the game, I said, mate, you don't have to play because no one is going to, and it's not going to affect any future selection if you're not up to it. You don't have to play. And he goes, he would be screaming at me
That's
to
right.
play.
That's
so
right.
he's like, I'm playing, and
100%.
Yeah,
very nice.
And he was voted Mako Man in the Sheds at the end of the game. We always vote for player of the game. And he was overwhelming, over 26 votes for Kirkland. Yeah.
And who got your Grit Award?
Who got the Grit Award? Oh, you put me under one there. I can't remember, Les.
No, it's no problem. And Monu Molly got your team.
Sione Haveli Talaturi got the Grit Award.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Someone would have got Sparky, and if it was your vote, it'd be Monu Molly.
Monu, Manager's Award every week.
Every week. 100%. All right, this is where we do our picks, and it's round 9 on Thursday night. It's Hawke's Bay at home versus Auckland. What a cracker this is going to be!
Yeah, on a Thursday night.
Yeah,
damn.
What does that mean for where are they on the ladder as well?
The
Hawks is up there.
Hawke's 5 and Auckland's out of the 8.
Yeah.
That sounds nice, keeping Auckland out the 8.
Yeah.
I always like Hawke's Bay. I think they're a tough team to beat, especially at McLean Park. So I'd probably go Hawke's Bay there.
We'll come back to the Southland game, but this is on Saturday, Otago versus North Harbour. That is at home.
Yeah, so North Harbour are the only team without a win, and they went so close against Northland. And they're probably not too far away. But this Otago side, number 2 on the table, they're a different outfit this year, very well coached, some quality players. So I expect that they will retain the Ramphilly Shield.
Young Dylan Pledger at 9, who was our vice captain with the New Zealand 20s, great young man, great leader. Otago locked in a quarterfinal spot. So they're looking to hold the Shield against a winless team, surely. And I think they could have the biggest week in the world and still get up for this one.
Yeah, so when we talked about standout players, you'd mentioned Finn McLeod, but then again, I thought Dylan Pleasure.
Dylan was fantastic.
He's an amazing talent, and I just like the all-round talent he's got. Good passing off the deck, and he can run. And
just a couple of things I saw. We went down to Italy, I think, in the first game, or it was a tight game, and we're under the posts, and he's in the huddle, and these are 19, 20-year-olds, remember, and he just goes, "We've been here before," and we're down to South Africa in just a month or so earlier over in Port Elizabeth, and just to see that from a 9 or a 20-year-old, I thought that's pretty good. That's the kind of thing you expect Dave to say, a seasoned All Black and the Crusaders captain, let alone a 20-year-old halfback who just we've been here before, stay calm, we'll be fine. So he's got a great, he'll be an All Black. There's a great future ahead of him.
Good stuff. Taranaki versus Wellington. It is at Stadium Taranaki, and it just depends if Wellington can be consistent, but it'll be a very strong Taranaki side.
You'll have to make a call, Chris.
Well, I'd say Taranaki at home, based on the season. But if that's a bit of a sign from Wellington that they've finally hit their straps, who knows? Sunday, we got Bay of Plenty versus Waikato, and Waikato would have had a bit of confidence out of that, but whether they can do that against the Boppers who are at home.
Yeah, interesting one. I guess when the All Blacks play Saturday night at Eden Park, is it? So they might not. Bay of Plenty, I think, are quite not beholden, but their team changes when their All Blacks are in to when they're not in. We saw that in week 1 when we went up there and their All Blacks were there, and they put us to the sword. Only then to go and lose a couple of games that maybe you think they wouldn't have. Both teams are flying after the weekend, but I'd still probably pick Bay of Plenty at home.
All right. Counties Manukau versus Manawatu, and they're on a bit of a roll at the moment.
They have hit their straps, and they play with a great deal of energy and flair, and I think Manawatu are just dropping off at the tail end of the season, so Counties at home for me.
And another good game. Northland they've had a good season, haven't they? They're taking on Canterbury it is at home too, so at Seminoff Stadium. And Canterbury will be disappointed to go down to Otago, but Northland's not easy to beat at home, are they?
No,
certainly not.
We went up there and had to struggle, eh?
Yeah, and we'll talk about those two words, Shield hangover. And I know Canterbury, set in the standard so far this season, top of the ladder and everything, but I'm going to vote against them because I like watching them lose. So I'm going to go for Northland.
Northland.
Yeah. Well done, mate.
All right. So let's talk about the Southland game. It's going to be a long trip. We're recording this quite earlier in the week because the guys are not going to get a day off, and they're going to pretty much get on the plane, Thursday? Mm-hmm. And then they're into it Friday night against, it'll be a good Southland team. They're not going to be easy. So how are things looking squad-wise?
Yeah, change up this week with we gave them 2 days off at the start of the week. So just to refresh and reset, and told them go and do something away from rugby, whatever fills your cup, and come back the best version you can be on the Tuesday. So Tuesday training, Wednesday training, Thursday off to Invercargill. Long trip, obviously 2 flights down there, but a pretty cool place to go, an atmospheric place to go, and Stag fans always turn it on as well. And as we mentioned earlier, we've got a couple of good links down there with Jay Renton and Quinn Harrison-Jones as well, going to play against his old team.
Get Jimmy Cowan to come and see you on Thursday night.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And obviously our CEO, Steve Mitchell, spent 3 years down there as well. So no, cool place to go. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we're recording this before the team's been even named. Right. So we're still waiting for some physio clearances on some certain players. But I'd expect that we're going to see a pretty much a front line, the best team we can put out on the paddock this week.
Will that mean Macca Springer is over his niggle with his ankle?
Yeah, Macca at this moment is expected to be playing. Still some questions over Fletcher Anderson, who might need a bit of time off for wear and tear, and a big one for Sione Havili-Talatui because. It's his 50th game if he plays, but he also is currently, at this time, and we're Monday, remember, on an orange light from the physio, so they just need to spend a little bit more time with him to see. But pretty cool for John Hurricane, as he's known, to get a blazer. Awesome servant to the club. And then obviously he's off at the end of the year, off to Japan as well. So,
he'd be a fitting blazer Mako. Seriously, a good guy who came to us out of College Rifles Auckland and just has been a absolute tough, small man in a big jersey.
Yeah, the Tom and Axe, they call them. And then on Saturday night, we talked about the awards. So it's a bit of a we'll use that time to celebrate those three, in particular Quinton Strange, Levi Omoa, and Sione Habili-Tautua, who are all heading off to Japan at the end of the season.
Yeah, right.
All with black Mako blazers.
All with blazers, assuming Sione, fingers crossed, gets through the week.
Yeah, he's got 2 more games at minimum. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So no, pretty cool. Yeah.
With one eye on the next conversation with the Bledisloe Cup, are we likely to see Leicester have a run with the Mako? Or too early to tell?
Too early to tell. I think we normally find out on a Tuesday. So that's when I normally get the call from the All Blacks manager about what's going on. My intuition would suggest not, because the All Blacks play on Saturday. Their main training day will be Thursday. So I don't know. Honestly, who knows? You just never know.
I can imagine those phone calls from the All Black manager, and you're getting prepared for a big game coming up. And Hugh's on the phone. Oh, you're kidding me, aren't you? We got Southland, man.
Yeah, it's a tough one, because I don't know which way I fall on the argument, because in a way I think it kind of ruins the integrity of the competition. And I remember I used to run the NBL, so I've kind of been in that what do you call it, administrative role over the competition. And like, betting is such a big part of these things. It brings a lot of money into it, helps you run the sport. And all of a sudden, people getting money on, I don't know, let's have a look at Bay of Plenty Waikato, right? Waikato coming off a good win in Tasman. Oh, I'm going to bet on them this week. And then all of a sudden on the Wednesday, 1, 2, 3, 4 All Blacks, you're like, oh, well, nuts. And when it's a shield game, it can make it. So I don't love the All Blacks being dropped in and out of the competition willy-nilly. I think it kind of ruins the integrity of the comp. At the same time, we want the All Blacks to get game time. We want the best All Blacks we can have, as we're probably about to talk about, I imagine. It is a tricky one, and it can disrupt your week. Yeah. So for Gray and the coaching staff not knowing if Leicester's available, do you name him, and then do you have to tell a youngster, oh, you might be in, you might, you want that guy to have the best preparation he can have. Yeah. Sometimes it's Leicester's in, or Jim's in, or whoever it might be, Dave, Ethan, and they're going to be with you for the training day. Sometimes it's they'll see you at the airport, and then so how can you prepare if you just don't know what
it's a tough job. It's a bit like taking a reserve side, isn't it, with who feed a first side, and you just never know on a Saturday who you're going to have, and it's a very difficult job. But in a way, that's our development league, isn't it? And that's why it's there. And the talent always comes through, no matter how often we talk about depth. All of a sudden a new kid arrives, and you just think, geez, I personally think there's a bright future. Anyway, let's get into, let's talk first of all about South Africa versus Argentina. It's 4:10 a.m. I don't know if I'll be up for that one. It's in Durban, and it's going to be interesting, isn't it? Because South Africa, I mean, they said they were going to change the team up anyway, regardless of the result, because he wanted his, like, you can't really call it a second team, because he said he's got a 44-man squad and he could mix it up in any way you want. But really, it was a completely different side to what South Africa had traditionally picked. But he said, I was always going to pick that side regardless. And regardless of the fact we lost the first test, my focus is on the World Cup, and I need these guys exposed to New Zealand. Well, weren't they? They just brushed them aside. Anyway, we'll flush the dunny, as that is often talked about. And so what team are they going to have against Argentina? And Argentina traditionally strong in the forward pack, but they can also throw it round.
I think they'll go with plan A, which will be the conservative side and approach for test 1, and then they'll change it up for test 2. So that's what I'm thinking. But I don't know the team, so just in Durban, I would have to say South Africa will go into this as favourites to beat Argentina.
Yeah, I'm a massive Rassie Erasmus fan. I think whatever sport is your favourite sport, someone like that, and the way he pioneers things, and the way he talks about why he does things, is I think it's really exciting for rugby, the way he operates. He is at both the same time traditional rugby man, and you only have to watch some of those documentaries about how he, can arc up and fire up at the players, and at the same time a massive progressive, and he's changing the game and how we view it and how we attack it. So I think they'll win. I think they're the standard bearers at the moment in world rugby, in everything they do. So I think it's going to be a win for them.
Yeah, and a quality 44-man squad.
But
Whichever way he dices it, it's going to be
that's
a
right.
good side.
But it's interesting, Argentina does tend to bounce back. They're not going to be easy, are they? And, I'm picking that maybe I'm hoping it might be one apiece.
Is that the difference, though, Les? You talk about that, and I like that from Rassi Erasmus, and he does say that the World Cup's the focus, and this is why we do this, and he explains this is why the youngsters played when they lost over in Argentina with that young team. Well, this is why I played them.
Yeah.
Maybe Springboks fans, and maybe I'm just saying this because I'm not in South Africa and you don't see it, but maybe they're a little bit more open to the odd loss for a good reason than us All Blacks fans are, where we might not be.
We're not.
Yeah, and he actually backs his players so strongly. Like I recall a test in Argentina when Mani Libok basically had a shocker at fullback. They lost the test, and you think, well, that guy's probably not going to pull on a green jersey. And then he picks him at number 10 for the very next test and says, run the cutter, mate, and go out and win us a game. So, yeah, he's a remarkable people manager. And, just the fact that he's prepared to have someone like Tony Brown lead the innovation in the side.
Interesting.
It's awesome.
I didn't see Tony Brown in the box in that second half.
He was there. He wears a white.
No, but he was in the box in the first half, but not in the second half.
Might have gone down to the bench.
Yeah. I just thought that was interesting. Yeah. All right, so
funny he doesn't wear Springbok gear.
No,
yeah.
Wears a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Okay, New Zealand versus Australia, and it's way before the announcement of the team, so we can only guess.
What a great time, first of all.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay, so any major changes in the 4-pack? Expecting that?
One or two.
Are they going to go back to Lomax and Williams?
Yeah.
We've had a couple of Tyrell Lomax sightings in Trafalgar Park the last couple of weeks.
He's been
training with us, and they've been pretty keen to get him into a units training session and getting some rugby under his belt.
Because they kind of kept with what was meant to be the fill-in prop forwards and then brought them off Impact. That might have been because easing them back in, but
the big change in the front row will be the return of Cody Taylor, I'm hoping.
Yes.
And he's the glue in this side, so
and then
I'm seeing that. I'd like them to start with Fabian Holland at lock. I don't mind if they go with Tupai Vai at 6 or off the bench. I don't mind if Simon Parker is at 8 or off the bench, but you got to have those taller players now getting more and more game time.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was some talk about we didn't get enough go forward. Is it time to bring Artie back to 8? I don't like that. Surely Satiti's going to stick at 8. He could still run amok at 7, couldn't he?
It depends on what they plan to do against Australia. If you're looking for size, then you might say Satiti comes off the bench and have Parker at 8. Right? If they choose to put Vai on the bench or Fabian Holland on the bench, Parker will stay at 6, and they might run Satiti at 8 and Savia at 7. But man, I'm just guessing, like all New Zealanders. I don't know because there's no communication, nor should there be yet, about any team. I'm interested to see if Cam Roygaard gets rushed straight back to the side, but maybe they'll learn their lesson there with rushing Noah Hotham back straight after injury, and maybe they'll bring Roygaard in off the bench.
Well, I actually thought, and nothing, because I love Noah Hotham as a player, but I didn't think he was as sharp as Finlay Christie when he came on. I thought he was a bit slower at the back. It might have been, geez.
He hasn't played a game of rugby.
You're into the big fire straight away.
Absolute wild decision to start especially after the game that Red had the week before. That was a head scratcher. And now Paul Noah has broken his ankle. I'm not saying that's why, because he got thrown into there, because it was a bit of a freak moment that it happened. But
I thought Finlay's looked really sharp in there. Obviously, Roygaard will come back in, but I don't think it would be a bad thing starting Christie, and as you said, Roy Guard. He did play for counties and
Scored
looked all right.
try.
Yeah, so he looked all right, but
Yeah.
you need to ease these guys in. Okay, and then we've got and that's why I asked about Leicester, because it's not happening in the midfield. I don't know. They're going to persist with Barrett there and our friend from Wellington at centre.
So what I'd like to see is not Leonard Brown, Tupaia.
Right.
Quinn Tupaia at 12 and Proctor at 13. I still think we need a proper 12 that will give Proctor the space to do what he is very capable of doing.
Where'd you put Geordie Barrett in?
Maybe at fullback or on the bench.
He's so good, isn't he? His all-round skill set, everything he could do. But
Yeah, but is he a 12? And does he not distribute from there to set the 13 and who can then set the back line
And
the flankers away?
With the kicking, Barrett did sit back, didn't he? So, there has been a call in the last week for Barrett maybe to look at Barrett going back because of that high ball scenario.
There has been a chat about it in the press, yes. Do we, as Mako fans, do we think Jordan needs to come back to 15? But what would you do right now with midfield? You in your mind?
Well, I think Geordie Barrett has to be in the 15, has to be there somewhere. But I also like Will Jordan at 15. I also see the benefit in having Beauden Barrett and Damien McKenzie and switching between multiple playmakers as well. So, but that's a pretty good headache to have when you think of all those three options that we just discussed, right?
So I guess what I'm interested in knowing is if there is an issue with the midfield, and there seems to be, is it going to be Billy Proctor that pays the
Leonard Brown
price?
comes in at 13.
Could that be the change that's made? But I really think that Proctor's a great long-term investment. I do. The way he plays, he reminds me of, I've said it before, reminds me of Joseph Suwali, the Wallabies 13, just in that languid style and the most beautiful soft passes to his outside back. So I'd like to see them persevere. So
Right.
Either Geordie Barrett has to get it right in terms of the 12 role, or
And
he's going to continue to be clunky.
Earlier in the season, the first test, he played really well, didn't he? So, something's not right there. And it does open questions because Caleb Clark played well for Auckland. When he hit it up, I think, so what do you do there? Do you have Will at 15? Because then you've got, is it Carter, wasn't it, that they brought up? Yeah. I thought he looked fantastic. And then you've got Caleb Clark, who's also bashing it up. But then where would you put Barrett? And that's why I wonder whether they probably won't do changes in the midfield. And because I think it'd be interesting to see what they do with Caleb Clark, because he did bash it up. He did break a few tackles. He does look quite good. Apparently he's quite good under the high ball. I think Leroy Carter looks strong. And then it's only that 15. There's no way they're going to drop Will Jordan. So I think they keep it the same. That's my guess.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
Yeah.
To give him a bit of redemption, that crew as well, and say, look, go out and.
Well, let's not forget it was a 7-point game until the 58th minute when there were 2 box lineouts in the 58th and 61st minute, and that took the momentum away from the side. It was
more our little things that were wrong.
Correct. And they just kept on like a snowball going downhill, just kept getting more and more complicated.
Because what I'm normally used to is us playing in Australia against Australia first, having a bad game and then getting redemption at Eden Park. It's the other way around.
Yeah.
So Australia going to break the hoodoo, and then it's Perth, isn't it? You've got to go to Perth.
Yep. Sold out Perth.
They won't break the hoodoo if we can withstand the box at Eden.
And then we get beaten in Perth.
Potentially.
That's probably what's going to happen.
I just can't see the Eden.
And then we need Argentina to chip up South Africa in the second game. All right.
You got an amazing opposition coach and Joe Schmidt, though, who will be figuring.
I know they will be up for this. Yeah, there is absolutely no doubt. But that's why we've got to be sharp on our game. Okay, World Cup women semi-finals. Geez, weren't Canada good?
Yes.
Right from that just blew us off the park right from the start. Yeah. And I thought, wait for the comeback. I didn't see the full game. I actually woke up to the audio, but I fell back to sleep after after Canada were way ahead, and I just kept on waiting for the comeback, and in a way we did, but Canada just saw us out.
Yeah, first of all, Canada were sublime. Their precision and pace was amazing.
Yeah,
But I'm not going to bag these Black Fern Sevens. They created some great opportunities themselves, but it was just discipline as well was poor.
it didn't quite
I think
gel.
it went to 60 minutes before they got themselves a penalty. They
Mm-hmm.
conceded at least a half a dozen, maybe more prior to that. So the lack of ball really told it against them. But hey, let's just give credit to an excellent Canada team.
I think it's great for rugby. Great
Yeah.
for otherwise, everyone's been sitting in that tournament thinking, waiting for the inevitable New Zealand v England final. Well, it hasn't happened because
That's
Canada
right.
put on an absolute clinic. So it's awesome to show that it's not just a two-team game.
And I really wish our sports journalists were a little bit more understanding and forgiving of a team not getting the result that they'd hoped for. Some of the commentary in the press has been pretty poor, I think. So
I think that's the general thing. I have to tell coaches all the time. Sometimes we forget the other team is trying to win as well. We don't have we don't have this given right, whatever team you support, to win the game.
That's
The
cool.
other team's trying to do the same thing you're trying to do. So I thought it was cool. I thought the Black Ferns have, as they always do, held themselves and represented New Zealand and the young girls around the place in an awesome way. My daughter's got really into it. She's 5 now. She's got really into it for the first time, and really into wanting to be a Black Fern and all that, which is awesome. That's exactly what you want out of them, whether they win or lose.
England 35-17 over France, and just showing their class and dominance. Their fullback back in full.
she's
flight.
a wonderful player.
Yeah. So it all goes towards the finals on Saturday. The bronze final. Geez, you have to play a bronze final. I mean, I know it's for seeding, and it's just the worst game to play in the world, isn't it? But anyway, New Zealand take on France, and who knows what's going to happen there. I think the Black Ferns, traditionally New Zealand teams do get up for these games. It'll be a close game, no doubt, or it will be that the Ferns turn it on and it finally clicks. And then it's going to be very interesting because England by far are the dominant side, but this Canadian side has showed what they're capable of achieving, and they play it at pace. They, play it with a lot of enthusiasm. It's not going to be an easy beat for England at all.
No, and they've got a player, Sophie de Goody, who's a number 5 Canada, who can just do everything. She looks like a John Eales. She kicks goals, she wins lineouts,
yes.
she gets turnover ball, she takes intercepts, she makes the tackles. just a remarkably good athlete. So I think they will keep this game close.
Yeah.
But I do think that England just are, at the moment in World Rugby, the best team.
And it's at Twickenham, right?
Yeah.
So
Big
it's
round.
all signs point to England. You'd like to think it's a close game after the hour mark.
Yeah.
I would like to think that, but I have a sneaky feeling England are going to look
England
pretty
will do
couple
it.
from the
Yeah.
start. Yeah.
And John Mitchell might not have to resign because he said it's win or nothing.
Yeah.
And okay, all right. Well, thank you very much, Huw. We really appreciate you coming in and giving us an update on everything that's going on with the team this season, the experience with the under-20s. But then, of course, it's a goodbye.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Off to Chiefs country. And, mate, that sounds very exciting, doesn't it? We wishing you and all your family, because you've upset the family now. You've got to move the whole family.
No.
Is the wife looking forward to it, or?
Yeah, we're all the same, real mixed emotions. The kids, they're young enough to not really know what's going on, apart from my son's going to miss the Mako and the Giants a lot. But no, excited, but mixed emotions. We'll miss this place like hell. I absolutely loved our time here, and we'll be regular visitors.
So remind me of your original home of birth, or where's your...
Grew up in the UK, actually.
Yes.
Welsh, and then I moved over to Palmy as a teenager, and I was in Auckland for a long time, and then the last 5-6 years have been...
So there's still some North Island connections.
My wife's an Aucklander, and her parents are up in the Waikato, so for her, she's like
It'll be a good move for
close to mum and dad and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Hugh, you're going to continue a pretty fine tradition of team managers. You know, we've had Janelle Strickland manage the Mako and go on to manage New Zealand Sevens and now the Black Ferns. We've had Stu Hunter, who's managed the Mako, Canterbury and under 20s. You've done your bit as well. Marty Verco, of course, who set the standards in Mako team management.
Yeah. Don't forget the first ever Mako manager, Terry Williamson, who has just won the Pacific Nations Cup with Fiji as their manager.
Okay,
There you go.
Tell, yeah.
See, there you go. Lots of good people have come out of this region. But congratulations on the appointment, mate. You're going to be very proud of that. And I reckon the family's going to love it, especially your wife.
Yeah.
Having family nearby is going to make life easier.
It'll be a good adventure for sure.
All right. Well, all the best of luck, mate, for the future. And look, who knows? One day you might be able to come back for a fourth time, and you know, at least we might start to see know some people throughout progression. Like, one day All Blacks manager will have an inside.
Yeah, well, we'll ring them if that happens.
Yeah, that's right.
Phone's always on.
All right. Thank you, Les. Not going to Invercargill.
No, but enjoy the trip and just keep those boys focused, mate. It's not going to be easy, so we need the win.
We do. All right. Big thanks to the Turf Hotel, Stan and the team. Check out the Facebook page for everything this weekend. You can listen on NBS Talk Nelson website and social media, Spotify, YouTube, and NBS Talk Nelson digital radio. That's it for this week. We'll see you for another episode next week of the Mako Rugby Roundup.
The Mako Rugby Roundup. What's on, where, and when. It's the Talk of Nelson. NBS Talk Nelson.